and
Hello.
welcome to our video about Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and we're going to talk about all of our theories and our reaction to stuff.
And so this is a 100% spoiler-ridden video. If you have not seen The Crimes of Grindelwald yet, you do not want to watch this video. You want to bookmark it and watch it later after you watch the video.
Unless you're like all cool about spoilers and that's your thing, then
yeah, if that's your thing.
Feel free, but
there's gonna be so many
you've
spoilers.
been warned.
100% spoilers. So, what was your initial reaction?
I'll be totally frank. My initial reaction to this movie was like, huh?
Yeah.
What? When you're like excited for a movie, 'cause we've been like theorizing about this movie for like 2 years. Like in-depthly theorizing and like the pausing the trailer at certain times, like getting all these things.
Such as the Letta and the swirling dancer wasn't in the movie. It was
not in the movie at all. There was like a scene with Queenie walking, which I don't remember seeing that one.
Oh yeah, her like with the arc in the background.
Yeah.
We didn't see that.
I don't remember seeing it. But yeah, and I still remember like even with Fantastic Beasts, the original one, like that I want to be a wizard line that was cut. And like I mean, granted things are gonna be cut. And I know I read an interview with Ezra, he was saying that David Yates just films a ton of footage and then just goes and like well not like but like you know like
kind of though
like takes out a lot of stuff
because I think like my overall reaction of the movie is it feels like it should have been it was this and then it got reduced down to this and it for casual moviegoers they'd be like, so who is that? And why is this important?
If I didn't know who these people were, I would be out. And I did know who these people were, and I still was so confused. Like, before we get into like all the stuff we've like tried to figure out and like research, I still don't think that a good movie means something you need to research.
Yeah, you don't need this
seeing the movie
to understand.
And like, and I can't say that I didn't 100% enjoy it or anything. Like,
yeah, there were parts
and I can't say that I'm not like still in it. Like, because I'm gonna still like
abandon the Harry Potter franchise. Like,
bye Harry Potter, we're done with you. No, I still think you can be a fan of something and still like call it out when it isn't as great as you're used to.
Yeah. And everyone gets their own opinion, but this is our video and this is our opinion. I've read the script book. Just a couple of things that were not clear to me in the movie that are now more clear. Grimson, the kind of bounty hunter that goes after Credence that Newt doesn't like, he's described as a beast hunter, which didn't come across to me. I thought that he was just like a dude, like, I'm an old man. Okay. So that's why Newt is like, what is he doing here? And he's all mad. I really liked the Spellbound magazine.
Yeah.
It's titled Celebrity Secrets and Spell Tips to the
cute.
Stars.
Can I just say I'm still a big old fan of everything Mina Lima / Colin Abba does. Hands down.
Yes.
They kill it. The design of that movie is flawless.
The predictions of Tycho Dodonis kind of came out of nowhere and became really, really important. How the prophecy kept being repeated in snippets and then it wasn't actually said in completion till the end. A son cruelly banished. Despair of the daughter, return great avenger with wings from the water. I definitely feel like this is one of those things where it's the villain thinks they know all the answers to the prophecy, and then it turns out, bam, it was this crazy thing that you never knew.
Right.
Because that was basically the whole Voldemort prophecy and all the prophecies in the whole series. Right. I'm sure that is important, but it was definitely incorrectly interpreted. And it's probably going to come up later. The skull-shaped thing that Vinda and Grindelwald were holding is definitely confirmed as a hookah. He was definitely obviously smoking from it. Although they never actually showed him smoking from it because of the ratings.
Can't do that.
So they couldn't do that.
Can't do that.
But it is a hookah. Like the book says it's a hookah. So he breathes.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I guess it's a way to like
hookah.
to make like his inner thoughts outward.
So it was like
people could see it.
pensive the way it worked. Yeah, it was like
kind of like
you use this tool and it enhances this type of magic. I like that.
Yeah. Instead of going into it, it takes you out.
Yeah, I love
something like that. Grindelwald calls Credence the only entity who can defeat Dumbledore, not a person. That's entity.
Going to be a key word later.
So we have a theory, and this is going to be in a little bit.
Foreshadowing.
So it says in the book that Credence steals birdseed from the market when him and Nagini are walking through the market, and Grimson is following them, he steals a pack of bird seed, which, seeing it twice, never came across to me.
Yeah, so that's something to look out for next time.
So that makes me think that he had the, like, maybe there's a deleted scene from when Credence gets involved with the circus, because we know there's a deleted scene where he's like, look, oh, that's a, yeah, he's looking at a poster that was in one of the trailers. He's looking at a Circus Arcana's poster. He's wearing that jacket that was in a lot of the promotional. So I think maybe he got the Phoenix chick from way back at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, he was looking after it as a circus thing, because he steals birdseed, and then he's feeding the chick in that roof, which came out of nowhere. And then bam, there's a phoenix at the end. So Irma Dugard, she is living in the servants' quarters on number 18 Rue Philippe Laurent, and that's Lorand. And I looked that up on Google Maps and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So that might just be some kind of created street, or maybe
it's a magical street.
Maybe it's somewhere in Paris. But that makes me wonder, like, is Irma Dugard still a Lestrange servant? She's living in the servants' quarters in this house.
Is she, though? Because it looked like she was living in, like, a beat-up-old apartment.
Yeah, it does look very derelict.
Maybe it's like, I'm sure there's a whole backstory for her, but, like, maybe she's, like, was a servant, because she's half-elf. Half-elf. So I noticed she had 4 fingers. Yeah, Michael noticed it. And I was like, no, she doesn't look like an elf. But I was like, wait, Hagrid.
I really liked the admonitors. The bracelets that they put on Dumbledore's wrists are called admonitors. Which is admonish, so to punish, and then monitor, to observe. So admonitor, I love that.
An Easter egg from the first movie, in the Ace of Beasts book, sorry, it's right behind me, so I had to look at it, there is a picture of Tina's admonitor. Yeah. When she was in trouble with the Ministry, she had to wear one too, but you would never know that from the movie. But Ace of Beasts book, there's a picture of it and everything. Yeah. So Tina had it as well.
Travers is the Ministry law enforcement head dude, says, you will no longer teach Defense Against the Dark Arts.
A little Easter egg to Death Eater.
Yeah, he has descendants who are Death Eaters. So that kind of explains why Dumbledore was teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts for Newt and for this time period. He was the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And then he got admonished, and then he had to become the Transfiguration teacher. So,
which is odd.
Something else I didn't know, that the first Letta flashback where she hexes the girl's mouth off, her and Newt are 13 at that point, and then the second, the Boggart lesson, they are 16. So there's a 3-year time difference between those two flashbacks. The same actors. But it's
who were wonderful.
They were wonderful.
They were great.
But it doesn't read as 3 years different to me.
No.
It read as like the next day. Should we talk about McGonagall? So in Order of the Phoenix, McGonagall says how long she's been teaching at Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Based on the Pottermore article that J.K. Rowling wrote and put time periods and things in for how long, like, McGonagall worked at the Ministry, how long she was married, how long people counted it back. And she, according to that canon, was not alive at the time of this book, at the time of this movie. If she was both in Letta's flashbacks from like 20 years ago and currently at Hogwarts.
Are there 3 Minerva McGonagalls out there?
17 years previously. So I actually happened to like open right to the page. When does that ever happen? So 17 years previously is when Letta curses the mouth off the girl. I was in the first time, I was like, oh, McGonagall, oh my gosh, and she's being like rule following, like chasing after Letta, and like taking away points.
She's his favorite character.
And then that student was just like mouthing off, and she's like, oh, shut up, God, I can't stand you.
Like, yeah, McGonagall, yeah.
It was such a McGonagall moment, but then the tipsy wizards pointing out to us like,
because they had seen it twice, and they were like,
yeah, she wasn't born yet.
There's no way. And we were like, oh, you're right. Oh my God. And I mean, granted, this matters to us. It does not have to matter to you.
There was more to the Boggart lesson than just Newt and Letta's Boggarts. We saw that in the trailer.
Yeah.
And the script book also describes there were other Boggarts, but I guess they just cut it for timing. The Hogwarts students, like the mean Gryffindor girls, assume that Letta and everybody, like even Grindelwald says it later in the book, like, unloved by the Wizarding World. Well, that was a really good Grindelwald voice.
That was really good.
And I think that was my Dumbledore voice coming out. says it like, well, no, she always stays for holidays because she's not wanted. But really, it's because the whole use of comma thing, like, coming to kill her and her brother, who is missing. Okay, so this is a big one. We see the Mirror of Erised, and Dumbledore pulls off the sheet, looks at it, and everything. In the book, it says that scene takes place in the Room of Requirement.
Like, in ink, it says, this is in the Room of Requirement.
It does not read that way to me.
So, rewind.
In the movie.
So, Dumbledore mentions the Room of Requirement in the 4th book. During the Yule Ball, I ended up in a room full of chamber pots. And it was just like a fun little Dumbledore thing. But that was Dumbledore finding the Room of Requirement. Later on, in the 7th book, Dumbledore cannot find Voldemort's Horcrux, which leads the reader to believe that Dumbledore has no idea about the Room of Hidden Things. That he's never been in that room. So, like, the Room of Requirement can hold objects, but it's multi-dimensional. So you can be in the Room of Requirement, like in the 7th book, like as a hideaway, but you have to get everyone to leave before it can change back into the Room of Hidden Things. So it's like those things exist in the universe, in another dimension, but you have to access it a special way to get to it.
Right.
So, all that being said, can you have a room with one object, and that's just where it is? So, back to what you were saying.
So this made me think. So, first book, Harry flees the library when he hears Filch, and ends up in an unused classroom where he sees the Mirror of Erised for the first time. So he's running. Harry came to a sudden halt in front of a tall suit of armor. He had been so busy getting away from the library he hadn't paid attention where he was going. Perhaps because it was dark and he's a first year, so he doesn't really know that much about Hogwarts. He didn't recognize where he was at all. There was a suit of armor near the kitchens, he knew, but he must be 5 floors above there. Then Filch and Snape show up. He backed away as quietly as he could. A door stood ajar to his left. It was his only hope. He squeezed through it, holding his breath, trying not to move it, and to his relief, he managed to get inside the room without being noticed, without their noticing anything. They walked straight past Harry. It looked like an unused classroom. The dark shapes of the desk and chairs were piled against the walls, and there was an upturned wastepaper basket. But propped against the wall facing him was something that didn't look like it belonged there. Something that looked like someone had just put it there to keep it out of the way.
So Dumbledore can do a spell that makes him invisible. Dumbledore could have been in the Room of Requirement with the door ajar. It says in the book that Harry ran up 5 flights of stairs, or
from the kitchens. So I believe the Room of Requirement's on the 7th floor.
Right. So this is one of those things where if Dumbledore's trying to hide the Mirror of Erised, if that's his object, so like how would Dumbledore do that in a Room of Requirement without putting it in the Room of Hidden Things?
Right. So someone who accessed the Room of Hidden Things to hide potion bottles or whatever could stumble upon the Mirror of Erised.
But it's not. It's in a classroom by itself with upturned desks. Okay.
So it's like two things. It seems like it could be at two things. It's either it seems plausible that Harry in the first book stumbled upon the Room of Requirement, which had the mirror in it, either at a time, if this theory pans out, it would be at a time when Dumbledore is accessing the Room of Requirement to look at the Mirror of Erised. It says in the book that he has not looked at the mirror in a very long time. It says that in the script book. So all the Aurors showing up and talking to him about Grindelwald and showing him those misty images of them as young men triggers those memories for him. And so that's when he goes and looks at the mirror for the first time in a long time. So it's plausible that Dumbledore was accessing the Room of Requirement. Harry stumbled upon it. Dumbledore became invisible and backed up, and Harry was in the Room of Requirement the entire time. It's also completely possible that Dumbledore just pulled it out of the Room of Requirement, put it in a random classroom over Christmas because there weren't anybody there, and was enchanting it to hold the stone before putting it in the chambers under the castle.
But I think, and I've thought this for a very long time that the fact that the door was ajar when Harry went into the room I'm now calling it the room of requirement, but it's like now it's the mysterious room. When Harry went,
classroom.
The unused classroom.
Yeah.
When Harry went into that room, I've always thought that Dumbledore was still in there because the room was the door was ajar, because I feel like Dumbledore would have done some enchantments to lock it up if he's trying to hide it and keep it safe. But I mean, it's my biggest question about this is, what's Dumbledore's intention to hold the mirror if it is the room of requirement? Because if he's trying to hide it, it would take him to the room of hidden things.
Right.
But unless he had a different intention, which I don't know, like...
It would be like, just to see the mirror. I only want to see the mirror.
Only want to see the mirror. Like, the mirror exists.
But then Draco could have only seen the cabinet.
Right.
If that's what the only thing that was important to him, it wouldn't have been the room of hidden things with everything in it. It would have just been the cabinet.
Right, and Voldemort, when he wanted to hide the diadem, it took him to the room of hidden things.
Yeah.
So if that theory kind of pans out, then I see some holes.
Yeah.
But
I think it's plausible.
It could be something we're missing, too.
It's not airtight. It's plausible.
It's not airtight.
Moving along then from there, Nicholas Flamel's house is actually on, I'm going to butcher this, Rue de Montsouris. Ooh, my French, that did not go well. And that is actually historically where Nicholas Flamel's house is. So that's cool. Newt and Tina wrote letters to each other during their time apart. I think that's really sweet. So this did not read for me in the movie. Muggles cannot see the black curtains things, the banners that Grindelwald put all over Paris. I didn't pick up... I couldn't tell who was a wizard and who was a muggle because they were all dressed the same in three-piece suits. I love you, Colleen Atwood. But the wizards could see the banners, but muggles could not. So maybe in the third viewing, we'll see, like, I'll pay more attention to the muggles.
Because the redhead girl, like, obviously knows it's there.
Yeah, she was a witch.
Yeah, so she was a witch, so she saw it, but I think those other people...
Flamel's book that he touches and opens up is embossed with a phoenix. I assumed that, but it's confirmed in the book. Definitely thinking that's a predecessor to the Order of the Phoenix, because it's got Dumbledore's friends are under surveillance from the Ministry.
And then they passes through, like, empty seats, so those people weren't ready, but Eulalie Hicks was ready. And Dumbledore was one of the empty seats, it said in the screenplay, too. That's cool.
Yeah. Something that was also made clear in the script book is that the records office and the French Ministry of Magic, all of those columns are supposed to look like trees, and I'm sure they do. It's just not something I really paid attention to in the movie because they were square, and I guess I just read trees as circular. So they're supposed to be trees, and each tower holds the records of a particular family. So they're not all family trees. That's not in all of those drawers. I thought that was like the family tree room for all the purebloods. But each column is so that column that Letta summoned by saying Lestrange was the Lestrange column, and that particular box was just the family tree. And that's why Pickett climbs out, because Pickett's supposed to be excited that they all look like trees. So that's why he climbs out of Newt's pocket, so Letta can find him. I
definitely would not have gotten that.
Definitely didn't read that. I kind of drew out a chart here because all the Mustafa, Lorena, Corvus Lestrange stuff was very confusing to me. Mustafa, Lorena, were married. Lestrange comes in, Imperius is her, takes her away, gets her pregnant. So Yusuf was already alive. Letta is born, but Corvus doesn't love Letta because she's a girl, because of sexism. Then, okay, our light just died, so that's weird. Sorry, light changed. So Lorena dies. Then the blonde witch, that's all she's called. The blonde witch and Corvus get together, and they make Corvus Jr. in 1901. And that is when, and so Mustafa dies of grief after Lorena dies of childbirth, having Letta, and does an unbreakable vow to Yusuf to destroy the thing that Corvus Lestrange loves most, which everyone thought was Letta, but then they found out, oh, she's a girl, so no one cares. So then Yusuf had the unbreakable vow to kill Corvus Lestrange Jr., which is why they were sent to America.
But then we found out the babies got switched. So
by Letta.
Lahum is Credence Barebone.
And who is that woman who was carrying him? You wouldn't know that unless you read the script book, which I have done.
Or if you were like Shelby, aka the Tipsy one from one of the Tipsy Wizards, who went and looked at the IMDb cast and saw that this was
Credence's aunt. who is a witch. And so in the script book, there's a line that was cut from the movie where Credence's aunt says, Irma, who's the half-elf, who's with Letta and Corvus Jr., Irma, they're telling us to put life vests on. So Credence's aunt knew Irma.
They're on a first name basis.
First name basis. I don't know if it's because their cabins are across from each other. They're both from France. They're both magical.
They're both magical, but Tina makes a point to ask Lita in that scene, saying, do you know who Credence is?
And she says no.
She says no. She doesn't ask, do you know who Credence was with, but or maybe Letta's lying. She has a history of lying. Not that I'm saying like this movie has to make total sense, because I love figuring stuff out, and I think all of Harry Potter was like
that's true.
Cliffhangers and like what. There seems to be a lot of missing information for the cliffhangers to make it so you don't really understand what the cliffhanger is.
And as Harry Potter fans, like, we've been around the block. We know that, like, if you haven't heard about the ring composition of the Harry Potter series, you need to research that, because it's so important to the construction of the series. But we know J.K. Rowling writes in rings, and so 1 and 5, 2 and 4, and 3 are going to be a ring.
It's going to mirror each other.
That's how she writes.
So we're just getting into it, and it's just still like exposition.
So probably this prophecy, we probably won't even hear about it until the fourth movie, just because there's going to be that mirroring. In the family tree, when it kind of blossoms out of that box, I didn't pick up on this in the movie, but Letta's flower is supposed to wrap around Corvus as he kind of crumbles.
Oh,
and that's
I did notice that, but I didn't really realize what that meant.
And that is the evidence that Letta killed him. The spell that Grindelwald uses to the fire spell, the blue fire spell, I totally thought that was fiend fire.
Yeah, me too.
And I had called it fiend fire for a while.
It seemed like it.
But it's not. The spell is Protego Diabolica.
So it's like a protection spell, but it's Diabolica, so it means like Diablo. Devil, dragons, like protect me with dragons.
Diabolic.
Yeah.
And then Flitwick in the 7th book uses a protection spell called Protego Horribilis. He casts that out the window when they're reinforcing the Hogwarts protections. So Protego Horribilis, Protego Diabolica, these are some dark protection spells. These are like some interesting spells.
Yeah.
So that's
that was cool.
That's what that was.
And they used Finite to cancel it, so that's how you know it was a spell and not
it wasn't Fiend Fire.
A Fiend Fire.
Because that probably wouldn't have been powerful enough to stop Fiend Fire.
Probably not.
Nurmengard Castle is in Austria. That is confirmed.
Okay.
That is in Austria. All right. So this brings us to the big theory. Our big theory.
The big one.
That, so Grindelwald says, surprise, you're Aurelius Dumbledore.
And everyone's like, what?
And here's your phoenix to prove it. And everyone says, but the timeline.
But, we're just like, after the first time we saw it, we're like,
this doesn't make sense.
So, first of all, Daddy was in jail. Mom was dead.
Kendra was dead.
Dad's in jail with Dementors. That doesn't seem very romantic.
Grindelwald says he does say flesh and blood, so we have that in there. When Dumbledore's talking to Newt at the beginning, he says that the obscurus grows in the absence of love, like a dark twin, an only friend. Are the words that he uses. So that had us thinking. So if Ariana had this traumatic experience, she suppressed her magic from fear of exposing herself, which attracted the Obscurus to her, which we know that's how Obscuruses cling on. This has been a theory since
and they're Fantastic Beasts. They're a parasite.
It's a parasite, yes.
They're their own entity.
The Obscurus comes to Ariana. Ariana, her mom's super stern, doesn't seem super affectionate. Dumbledore's off doing his own thing. Aberforth is there, but, you know...
He's doing some weird stuff with goats.
He's probably distracted all the time. This only friend line is really sticking in my mind. So, kids have imaginary friends. Playing by themselves, Maybe they don't have siblings or friends to play with, so they create their own. So what if this Obscurus came to Ariana as her only friend, the only person or only entity who is companionship, feels that she's understood.
Her twin.
Her dark twin. What if she named it? What if she named it an A name? Like Aberforth and Albus and Ariana and Aurelius. And it was her dark twin.
So, if that's true, if this is her dark twin, she dies, and then the parasitic Obscurus is going to move on. Leaves. So, there's no possible way for the Obscurus to leech on to Credence when he's a baby. Because he has to have those suicidal, like, really suppressed
thoughts.
Horrible thoughts.
Yeah.
The Obscurus came over to America, and it's this Obscurus.
Yes.
And then there still could be a connection with Grindelwald and Credence. There still could be something there, but I still think this Obscurus made its way to Credence.
Yes.
Aurelius Dumbledore is the Obscurus to us.
Yes.
Right now.
That's our theory.
So, once he latched on to Credence, and Grindelwald knew about it, what better weapon could you use against your ex-boyfriend who you're trying to defeat than his sister's parasitic killer
thing?
He's trying to tell Credence, it's all about you, Credence. It's all about you, Credence. Credence is
This was all for you, Credence. Credence is a vessel.
To Grindelwald, Credence is nobody, but Aurelius Dumbledore is the parasite.
Credence is basically a plastic bottle, and the Obscurus is inside. And in the first movie, Grindelwald / Graves says, so it's useless without its host.
Absolutely.
When he pulls the other Obscurus out of Newt's case. So he's thinking, can I just kill Credence and grab the Obscurus out of him? But Newt says, no, it's useless. It'll wither and die if it doesn't have a host.
And then how can you keep a man, because Credence is a man now, how do you keep a man with an Obscurus? You have to give him enough love and enough attention, but enough pain and suffering to keep the Obscurus onto him. Because most children die with an Obscurus.
Yeah.
Like, that is he knows he's got to put every effort into Credence to keep him alive, to keep him just happy enough to keep the Obscurus and keep alive, but just miserable enough that the Obscurus won't leave him.
And the line says at the very end of the script book, after Grindelwald hands him the wand and tells him that he's Aurelius, Credence turns, the power of his Obscurus can at last be channeled. He points the wand at the window, and the spell of immense power shatters the glass, breaking apart the mountain opposite.
And that is Aurelius Dumbledore. That Obscurus.
Yes.
Not Credence. But Credence, I still believe, has some sort of story. There has to be a way that Grindelwald knew that was Aurelius Dumbledore. There has to be a way. Whether it's tracking, whether him and Dumbledore did this thing together.
Maybe they did some kind of experiment that removed the Obscurus from Ariana, and perhaps she lived for several years without it.
Perhaps, once before she died, the experiments they were doing on her is why she eventually, exploded.
Yeah.
But if that was it. And, of course, that turned Dumbledore against everything Grindelwald stood for, because that was his sister, and, he changed his views on life.
And his line from the book was, Aletta asked, did you love her? And he says, not as much as I should have done.
Grindelwald must have known that Ariana had this Obscurus. They must have known about Aurelius Dumbledore. Granted, they were only together for summer, but
it was a big summer.
It was a lot happened that summer. There was a lot going on that summer, but granted, it's there had to be a way for him to know about Aurelius Dumbledore.
And if this theory is true, I feel like it would work so much better for this story, because if he is actually a fourth Dumbledore, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It not even plausible.
If Grindelwald is just lying, if he's just, this is a bold-faced lie, that doesn't really work either.
No one would no one would care about the series at all. Be like,
oh, well, he's just lying all the time.
Yeah, doesn't change anything.
Grindelwald tells half-truths.
He tells half-truths.
He manipulates people. He's like, in the first, Graves was doing that all, like, I'm gonna help you become a wizard. I'm here for you.
Right.
Help.
Manipulated.
Talking to Queenie about, we haven't talked about Queenie at all.
No.
Telling Queenie, like, if you follow me,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to love whoever you want and do whatever you want. Half-truths.
Right.
All the time.
And as a writer, that's gold. That's like the money. Like, you want to get them so confused that they can't even believe that anything else would be plausible.
And then
boom.
The truth comes out.
And it's like, but especially when you can find clues along the way, that's what makes it.
And that's Jo's writing.
And that's her writing.
So McGonagall.
That's why we like her.
Well,
McGonagall, I don't know.
We're still working on McGonagall. That one we haven't quite figured out yet.
One thing I would like to say, just in general, is that had this had been a book series, I think we would have gotten a lot more out of it. I think it should have been a book series and then turned into movies, but I know that's just not how it is. I think that we're getting what we're getting with the editing from a movie franchise, from a movie standpoint, to make more things more accessible to, like, families as well as adults. But all in all, I would still, like, definitely watch it probably many more times. I'm still all in this fandom. Okay, so we talked a really long time.
Yeah.
And we're sorry, but
we're not.
sorry, not sorry. But thank you, and
Thanks
please
for
like
watching.
us, subscribe us to us, and follow us on our journeys, and keep the magic alive.
Keep the magic alive.